Hello, my name is John, and today we're in the cockpit of the AJS-37 Viggen again. In this video I wanted to cover the BK90 Munition Dispenser. The BK90 is not your standard munition dispenser, which you either have attached to your aircraft and drops the submunitions directly, or gets dropped and just expands the submunitions above the target area, but instead the BK90 is a standoff weapon. The BK90 can engage targets at a distance of up to 10 kilometers during the right conditions. However, the usual engagement range you will get them used at in the Viggen is about 7 kilometers. And the BK90s can be loaded with two different types of submunition, either the MJ1 anti-personnel submunitions or the MJ2 anti-vehicle submunitions. If you don't know what the target area is consisting out of, there is even a mix available that has both the MJ1s and MJ2s loaded. And for this flight we're using those because they have a very nice effect, I would say, and they look quite cool. So yeah. Also, regarding the BK90, thanks to its standoff functionality, it has a couple of things it can do. For example, engaging targets left and right of your aircraft. And it can also have various approach configurations and deployment configurations. We will take a look at those in a second. First of all, however, we will take a look at our target today. And this picture, taken by a friendly reconnaissance Viggen earlier on, shows our target area at an airfield, an abandoned airfield, and we have a couple of vehicles standing on the runway. Conveniently, they're all aligned and are all facing the same direction, and we're trying to come in and take them all out, or at least as many as we can. Now, the BK90 has a couple of nice features we can use here, because if you currently look where the waypoint B2M2 is located, it's directly in the middle of the airfield. If we were to release both of the weapons towards that waypoint, only the middle of the airfield would get obliterated and the rest of the airfield would just survive. And that obviously wouldn't be that good, would it? Because that's not how we roll. We want to destroy everything in one pass, I guess. And there's something we can do here, and we will look into that right now. First of all, let's go down here to the navigation computer and go into the TACT mode and in the input mode and hit the 9 and press it on the B2 button to set our B2 point to be our target waypoint M2. That is useful, A, as a reference, and B, just to keep in mind that we can move the target waypoint around or whatever we need to do with it without messing up the rest of our flight plan. So that's always the first thing I do with target waypoints, make sure they are target waypoints in the computer. Now the next thing we can do here, if we look at the picture once more, from the direction we are currently approaching at, it would be very nice if we could have one weapon impact in front of the waypoint and one weapon impact behind of the waypoint. And as the BK90 is programmable from the cockpit, we can actually do that. So let's get right into it. And to do that, we have to use the weapon codes. Now the BK90 has two weapon codes. The first weapon code is 91, and this one allows you to assign the approach altitude. And by default it's 60 meters, and you can change that here anywhere from 30 to 500 meters. Oh, sorry, correction, 300 meters I think. However, that's 60 meters is fine for this flight. It's flat terrain, we don't need to change that, so let's clear that out again. And if we enter 92, the second weapon code, we can set the affected area. Now by default both weapons will go for the target waypoint and impact the same area. However, we can select 92-1 here, and 1 is the long area mode. And now one BK90 will release its submunition in front of the waypoint and one behind it. And this is the ideal thing for our approach here. Also available is the 92-2, and the second mode is the wide mode. If we were to approach our target from either the left or the right, like 90 degrees offset, we could use the wide mode, and one weapon would release the submunitions to the right of the waypoint and one to the left. However, for this flight we're going to use 92-1 because that's the right one. So let's input that by pressing the LS ASCII UK, and all the digits will 0 again, meaning that it has taken input. Now we will disable the output mode and go to the active position here. That's good. That's it set. Now, the next thing you have to consider with the BK90s is that they are INS guided. They have their own inertial navigation system that is told by the aircraft where to go. Now, important here is that if the aircraft's inertial navigation system is off by a couple of meters or even kilometers, the missile will be off, especially if you don't have any way to realign the target or reset the target during flight. This is especially the case if you have smaller targets like infantry, which won't appear on the radar at all, and you will not be able to get the target waypoint set by just using the radar. So you have to use the data stored either by the waypoint or by the coordinates inputted. Also, if, for example, if you had a JTAC, while not very realistic for the Viggen, you still could use the coordinates, but if your coordinate system is off, the coordinates won't be good and you will just miss the target. So we have to make sure that the aircraft's navigation system is updated and the position is correct. To do that, we can either use the radar and align ourselves with a target or with a waypoint that's on a point on the radar we can see, or we can use the flyover function, or we can use the TerraNav. You can see more details about all that inside my navigation video, basics navigation system tutorial, and we will talk about that in there. However, for this video, we're just going to use the TerraNav. And the TerraNav uses the radar altimeter and a database where the radar altimeter data is compared to the database and the aircraft can figure out where it is, which is quite cool, especially considering the age of the aircraft. And to do that, however, we have to get lower because at this altitude the radar altimeter is quite useless. So I will disable the active pause and we will descend to an altitude of 500 meters or approximately 500 meters above ground, which is enough for the radar altimeter to work safely and continuously. Okay, let me level off here pretty much at 500 meters above the ground and enable the autoflight. And now we can currently see the 5 here is indicating that the radar database is being used and it will update the navigation system of the aircraft. And the 0 next to it will indicate that there is 0 kilometers drift, which is what we want to see. More about that again in the navigation system video. Now, before reaching the target area, we have to do a couple more things. First off is setting the weapon mode to attack. Then we want to be in the series mode for releasing both weapons. And we want to be in the values position. And the values position basically uses the data we have inputted just a minute ago into the navigation system for the release. If we put it down to the standard position, the weapon would ignore everything we have inputted and just do the standard, which is pre-programmed. And this can be useful, for example, if you approach a target area and realize, well, you have set the long area mode, however the targets are much more concentrated, you don't want the weapon to spread out that much. Then you just go ahead, flick down the standard switch, the weapon will do the standard function and it will still hit the target, hopefully. Or for example, if you had some pre-planning, the pre-planning is completely wrong, you have to engage a different target, flick it to standard, and in that mode at least you have the basic functionality. Now before we get closer to the target, we also want to set the attack mode over here on the master mode switch, and we can release the weapon safety or remove weapon safety. Now if you disable the autoflight again, on the HUD you can see 2 blinking vertical lines, and those lines are our minimum range markings. If they are blinking, that means that we are outside of the launch parameters, and currently, while we are at the right altitude, maybe a bit high, should be at 500 meters, we must go faster. We should be at least at Mach 0.7, however Mach 0.9 is preferably for maximum range. Now let's also switch to our target waypoint, so we have that selected, because the target waypoint has to be selected for the correct deployment of the weapons. And now as we get closer, the blinking should stop any moment. Once we have overflown these trees here and those hills, we will descend a bit further, so we are at about 400 meters, which is an optimal altitude. Flying at 500 meters while possible is very close, and you might get outside the release parameters. And as you can see, the weapon or the 2 vertical bars stop blinking, and they're expanding now, and they're dynamically expanding and retracting. And usually you should see a distance bar below that, and the distance bar will get smaller and smaller, and once inside those 2 vertical bars, That means you're within release distance and you are good to fire. However, for some reason this doesn't work always, especially in this mission. I never could get it to work from this direction. However, if I were to overfly the target and turn around, it would appear sometimes, or sometimes it wouldn't. I guess it's something I'm doing wrong or missing, I don't exactly know. However, I couldn't get it to work, and we'll just leave it be at that. Probably get changed in the future or something like that, or maybe something I'm doing wrong. Anyway, if you look at our target distance indicator, we see we're about 12 kilometers away. And once we're about 6 kilometers, we will just hold down the weapon release button and get those submunitions dispensers going. Speed is at Mach 0.9, which is good. Altitude above ground is about 200 meters. Plenty for this speed, I guess. We could be a bit higher, but it's fine. The weapons will make it to the target, especially if we hold down the weapons now. Okay, you could hear the whoosh, the weapons went. And they are not powered, they are just gliding, so the faster you are, the farther they go. However, you should not fly above Mach 0.9 because they are not suited for subsonic speeds, or supersonic speeds, sorry. Okay, and now I will just wait. Let's reduce our climb here a bit so we can actually see the target and not get obstructed by clouds. And let's see if we can hit the target. And there we go. Couple of impacts already. Got a couple effects on target. And we have a set of secondary explosions. And we have two sets of explosions here basically. The first set is the, I guess, one of the the two different explosions are due to the two sets of submunitions we have loaded, or the submunition mix we have loaded. I guess if you had only one, either the MJ1 or MJ2 loaded, you only would see one set of explosions. But with the mix, you have a nice set of two explosions, which looks quite cool in my opinion. And yeah, looks like we got good effect on the targets. One or two targets survived, but considering the amount of targets down there, we could kill most of them, which is perfectly fine. Probably disabled the rest of them as well. And yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you could learn something and could learn how you use the BK90 munition dispensers. More videos are up to come, I hope. Doing my best I can do, bringing out more videos. However, this video took quite a while now. I think this is about take number 10. I had a lot of problems with different terrains and stuff like that, not getting it to work properly, or not making very good commentary about what I'm doing, and concentrating on flying too much and stuff like that. And then I had a couple of good takes, and I realized I forgot to turn on the microphone and stuff like that. So yeah, I had a lot of stuff going on while doing this video, but that's fine, that's the way how it is, and I hope you can enjoy it anyways. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, fly safe, and see you in the next one.